Welcome to the Midnight Matinee with your host and hostess, Robert and Angi Curtis.
Welcome, everybody, to the Midnight Matinee.
We're here again.
We've got another one to go over. This is from our 31 Days of Halloween movies, demonic possession movies, and this one is number
13.
13! Lucky number 13. It is Sinister.
Sinister. And I will read the synopsis, just in case you've never seen it or heard about it. Sinister is a 2012 supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson, I guess that's his name, and written by C. Robert Cargill and Derrickson. It stars Ethan Hawke as a struggling true crime writer whose discovery of snuff films depicting gruesome murders and strange supernatural elements in his new house puts his family in danger.
Yeah. Basically, he's a writer. And what he does is he immerses himself into this story, and he goes as far as to either rent or purchase the home where the thing happened, and then he gets all of the evidence he can get his hands on, and then while he's doing that, he crafts this like true crime story for his book about what happened at the scene, and because he's living there, he can go deeper into the nuance of what happened. So that's his whole shtick. And his family absolutely loathes him for it. Because they don't want to live...
She didn't know.
She didn't know this time.
She knew that they were near the place where this...
He told her that it was in the same town.
Yeah, the horrific event.
Because she was already upset about it for the last couple times that they moved into a place and the whole neighborhood's like looking at him like, oh my God, people are living in that house. Do they know what happened in that house? And then she's always like, did you do it again? Did you move us into the house where people were murdered? And then now you're going to write a book about the crime that happened in the house that we have to live in for the next couple years? So his wife is very upset about it, so that he tries to hide it from her. And he goes full into his writing. Like he's stays up
immersion.
All night. Yeah. Lays out all the evidence. He goes through everything, all of the stuff that he can get his hands on, like videos of the crime scenes and pictures. He
befriends cops and stuff like that to see if they can help him out with photos and stuff that may not have been
published. Right. And he likes to use the police to try to fact check some of the other stuff so he can go deeper into the story than you got the first time. That's his thing.
So this movie starts with basically the family moves into this new house. In the process of, putting things away, he runs across this box up in the attic with these old 8mm films.
The home movies.
Home movies, like a found footage.
Right.
Kind of
and
thing.
Then it gives the cool thing about that, as far as taking a step back from movie crafting, right, is that he has to watch them on a projector. So it has that grainy kind of Zapruder film staging, where it's like out of focus, it's in focus, it kind of jumps around.
Home movie kind of quality kind of thing.
And he'll pause it and like walk up to the screen and like look at it and stuff, and it has a good effect. And the house that they used in this, it's kind of dilapidated. It needs some work, and it has a lot of shadows in it. And he likes to work at night while the family's asleep so they don't get into his headspace.
And they're not allowed to enter his... At least the kids aren't allowed to enter his space. Right. Because of the subject matter.
Because the graphic photos and stuff that are all plastered everywhere. So he stays up late. He has a drinking problem. Lots of things. And I said at the time when we watched this, I was like, it has kind of tones like The Shining. Yes. It has that where
that's a very good idea.
The dad is focused on something and he almost gets manic about it, and then everybody else tries to like live their life and he's annoyed by the fact that they exist. It has that kind of...
Well, the kids even got like bullied at the school because they didn't... This is before they kind of knew that they were in the house. Yeah, and the first... Actually, it even opens with this... I mean, right off the bat, it opens with this very graphic scene of people kind of being ready to hang from a tree.
The premise of this is that this Boogle, this made up demon that doesn't really exist. What the thing that it does is it finds one of the children and corrupts that child, and then makes them kill the entire family. And then it's always in some sort of weird Rube Goldberg device that that the children come up with to off the entire family. And it's weird. It has a really dark
and it is a tightly interweaved, woven pattern too that is slowly but surely, as he's going through this, you see that it's kind of a long time pattern.
Yeah, it's over a big timeline.
Yeah,
it happens in the 60s, it happens in the 70s, and then the 80s, and then it keeps it like on their own. These things don't look like they're connected, but because that's his job, he makes that connection. And then the further he goes down the rabbit hole, the more he starts to lose his mind, and then finds out that it's actually happening to him.
Yeah.
So it's. I really, really liked this movie when it came out. I thought it was really good. And it was one of those ones that I think it was like the Sinister
and Insidious.
Yeah, it was like around that same time.
I used to get those mixed up. Yeah. I'd be like, and then I was like, okay, now I remember which one was which.
Yeah. The thing,
it's from Blumhouse, so it's...
Yeah. It's well directed. The cinematography is what sets it apart, in my opinion, because it was actually filmed on film, right? They shot it on 8mm on purpose, which is one of my favorite things for horror movies, because you know that Panaflex or 16 is a big scene, and it makes everything look, hard-edged and sharp. 8mm is half of that. So it makes everything look grainy and dark, and it has to be lit a certain way for you to even see it.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff in this movie happens where it's like just straight black, and he walks through the scene and goes into the kitchen, and then you can see the light from the kitchen, and then like there's a lot of that in this movie. It's very moody, very blue tones, very, very dark. And then when the family's up, it's daylight. So it gives you that transition, because now the camera can see all the colors, so it films the colors because it's getting all of that input, and it makes this contrast between his day life and his night life, and it works really good in this.
Yes. Well, I thought it was interesting, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I did see something when I was kind of doing some research today, that Ethan Hawke didn't even look at the 8mm films beforehand, so he had no idea. So his reaction on screen is supposedly him seeing these for the very first time.
And it pays off, because when he has to wind the thing and then put it in the projector, and then he sits down and looks at it, and it's disturbing footage that he's looking at, because it's basically a murder of a family that's on this film.
Yeah, like a family annihilator, basically.
Yeah. So he's sitting there like, whoa, you know what I mean? As a real human, he's sitting there like, what am I looking at? And then it pays off in the movie, because you have that, like, even though I know people like to take a dump on Ethan Hawke, but
I love Ethan Hawke.
He is a really good actor, and he has that kind of where you can relate to him really easy in a scene. So he can play that where he's like having an emotion, and you immediately know. He's not like an actor who, like David Caruso or whatever, where he's just
I hate David Caruso.
I'm upset because I told you I am. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna go investigate this movie or this.
Right, like he's not one of those actors where they have to give you the explanation of what they're doing. I couldn't watch CSI Miami because of David Caruso. You just see him, and you have that emotional connection with him, like in Moon Knight when he played the villain.
I was trying to think about what he was in that we watched on Disney Plus, and it was that Moon Knight, wasn't it?
And because he's such a good actor, you're kind of ambivalent about his character, because he is the villain, but then at the same time you kind of like him. And then you're kind of like, well, he's kind of caught in between this god and this thing that he has to do. And then at the end, you're kind of like, yeah, he was the bad guy the whole time. but there's only certain actors that could pull that off. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of like confused about how his moral ambiguity about doing the bad thing. You know what I mean? So in this, it pays off a lot because he has that. where you're immediately on the ride with him. You know what I mean? You don't side with the family in this, because like a normal person would see this and be like, man, why would he move them into a haunted house and not tell them? You know what I mean? But in this, you're kind of
we would be excited about moving into a haunted house.
Yeah, like that's his thing. He's a true crime writer. You know, they appreciate all the money he makes from it. You know what I mean? And you don't. There's none of that moral ambiguity in this, because he's such a good actor and he plays it so straight that you're right there with him the whole time. You're
yeah, you feel like
ungrateful kids. Right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, he pays it off in this, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's a well-written, well-conceived, well-rounded movie that keeps you engrossed. Because, we saw it back when it first came out. I don't know if I saw it again at any point before us doing the 31 days or not. But, I mean, yeah, it's just a well-written.
Yeah.
Like, everything comes back around, and it does have that aha moment.
Yeah.
We don't want to spoil if you haven't seen it, but you're like, holy cow, I did not see that coming.
And this director does the thing that I like in these kind of movies, where they hide things in plain sight that you don't realize what they are until you get to the point where it's explained to you what that is. And then when you realize you've seen that before, and then now you're like, oh, we're further down the road than we thought we were. This guy's in trouble, right? And I really, really appreciate that with storytelling, when you can hide little nuggets in there, and then by the time we're getting the ramp up, to the third act, then it's all pow, you're like, oh, we saw that in the house, oh, we saw that in the drive, oh, we saw that in the garage, and you're like, ah ha ha.
And it has a great score too.
Yeah, the music is really good.
Wraps it up in like a perfect little present.
Yeah. It's a fantastic movie. I recommend it highly. Yeah. And when I first saw the trailer for this, I thought, oh, it's another one of these. Yeah.
It's not a found footage movie per se, in the found footage like we've talked about other movies. Like, it's still well done, and they don't rely completely on found footage.
Right. It's not somebody filming it with the snap focus and the sticking the camera in your face, and they're moving the camera intentionally out of focus so they can...
It's a film with found footage in it.
Yeah, and it said that in the thing, too. It was like a found footage type movie. It's not at all. If that turned you off on this, it's not a found footage movie. It's a straight horror suspense movie, and it has a found footage as a part of the story. It's not a found footage movie.
Yeah.
So don't let that. And this is one of those movies too that I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, and I can't tell you any plot holes in it. Mm-hmm. Like it was that good. And the funny thing was, the first time I watched it,
I would say the second time you see a lot more.
You think, when you first watch it, you're like, well, why did they do this, and why did that happen? That's kind of dumb, because obviously this would. And then you watch it the second time, you're like, oh, now I get it, because this is going on the whole time.
Yep.
That's why it. You know what I mean? So not giving any spoilers, but there's no wasted moments in this. So if they're showing you something, it's an exposition because it's a part of the story.
Yep.
And it is very, very tightly edited. Like you hear me say that sometimes about good movies, that I don't like it when they waste time filming things. You know, like it's very easy when you're editing a movie to just say, okay, the action stopped. We're going to cut to the next scene. Here's our transition. Go. Well,
and I read somewhere that it was actually filmed chronologically.
Yeah.
From start to finish, which
is another thing
which is not normally how movies are done.
No.
They're all over the place.
Right. Or they film it by the shooting schedule, so it's more convenient for the staff.
Yeah.
But when you shoot it chronologically, it's very expensive to make a movie like that. So they were taking a big risk by shooting it like that, because the actor, the Ethan Hawke, then, who is a person who is slowly losing his mind through this movie, it's easier for him to portray that character because every day he's a little further down the road, right? So then you're not shooting like a scene where you're like all frazzled, and then the very next day you meet the house for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't...
Yeah, you need the, like the actor is actually feeling what he is going through, right, because they're going through it.
And when they do that chronologically too, the set dressing and the actors themselves kind of weather during the filming of it, and then like their hair gets longer, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it has that kind of effect through the whole thing. Whereas if it's shot out of order, they have the same haircut from the first scene to the last scene because they have to keep it like that so that they don't have continuity errors. So I really appreciate that. Was there anything else that we wanted?
I was going to say, it said despite no nudity and very minimal swearing, it was given an R rating for disturbing, violent images and some terror, which I would agree.
Yeah, there's one scene in here because I
wouldn't call it like gore in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, because the gory scenes are filmed from such a distance that you don't really get to appreciate what is going on.
Well, and someone else said that, I think, about the 8mm films. It was like you were seeing it from the eyes of the murderer.
Yeah.
So you were basically being put, those 8mm films that he was watching, put you into the seat as to what that person was doing.
Right.
From the from the view of the murderer.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. Well, I know what I'm going to rate it. Do we want to put up our rating system?
Yeah, put up the rating system.
I'm going with Hell's Bells.
Yeah, I have to give it Hell's Bells too. I was going to say one step back from that, but I think in this genre of movies, there aren't a lot that are like the supernatural kind of horror. It's not a slasher film. It's not a found footage film. It's
well, and you can relate to it too.
Yeah.
Like, we could move into a house and find some rare thing, box of films upstairs.
How easy would it be? You don't know the history of every house that's on the market.
I mean, we didn't find
you're
out.
You're not from there.
This house that we lived in, we didn't find out until 3 or 4 years down the road that someone had unalived themselves in here, which it kind of explained
a lot of stuff that happened. We first couple nights we moved in here, things were happening in the house.
Things still happen to this day.
Yeah, still do. But
we've kind of gotten to the
it's more of a nuisance at this point than it is.
Like, okay, smoking man.
Right. There's a lot of times in our house, sidebar, that you will get cigarette smoke blown in your face by the entity.
And neither of us smoke. We're going on almost 8 years in this house.
Neither of our neighbors smoke. And we don't smoke, and there's no way. But I mean, it's strong enough, like someone had just poofed to blow smoke right in your face. And I've had it happen to me in the shower before, and it's kind of annoying.
Well, and then our dog. For a long time, there wasn't a house next door, but the dog would stare. Our bedroom is off the living room, so if I'm sitting there and he's gone for the evening, doing whatever he's doing, Cade will sit in the chair and at the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I'll be like looking, going, I'm not seeing anything. I mean, and then you'll wake up in the middle of the night, you hear
yeah, you hear the floorboards creak in the middle
and you're
of the
just
night.
And you say I've even sat up. Now I'm a kind of a weird sleeper. People have told me that they've had conversations with me, and I don't remember this, so I was not fully awake. But that I point or something, and just kind of crazy stuff. But we digress.
Right.
Let's reel it back.
How easy it is, what we're saying, to move into a house that has a dark history and you didn't even know it.
Well, even my childhood home had weird things that would happen as a kid, which was my first, entry into this. Like strange things where the TV would turn itself off and we would hear strange noises. And I didn't find out until I think when I was in college and we had already sold that home and whatnot that someone had unalived themselves up in the attic. I'm like, so many houses. Ironically enough, the guy who we had a childhood friend, one of my dad's colleagues, and friend actually bought my childhood home and actually just passed away last week in it. So that's kind of sad. But now another one is going to haunt that home probably. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah.
Yeah. So bring it back around again.
Reel it back.
Was there anything else that we missed that we wanted to talk about?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we got it all. We don't obviously. We try not to give anything away because we want you to have your own little aha moments. But to say, this is one I would watch again.
Yeah.
We have quite the list.
We've seen it like 4 or 5 times. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now, and I find something new in it every time I watch it.
Yeah.
There's little Easter eggs hidden throughout the entire movie. Like the Mr. Boogie.
Yeah, Mr. Boogie.
Mr. Boogie face, and you'll see. You'll see if you watch it.
So anything else coming up? Like I told him tonight, I was looking through my phone and it said that there's going to be a new movie coming out where it's going to be a horror movie and it's going to be from the perspective of the dog. A dog is going to be able, I guess, see. I'm like, well, how are they going to do this?
What was that one that we watched recently? Was it where the guy was like it's like History of Violence, or you know what I'm talking about? Where it was the serial killer was like Jason type thing.
I'm drawing a complete blank on this. He
wore like the leather mask from the wood cutting place.
Oh yeah, what was that?
I think it was called like a history of violence, or in a violent something it's called. Anyway, it's a slasher movie. It's seen from the perspective of the killer, so you're like following the killer along through the entire movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and it was like they were like the people out in the woods, and oh my god, yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but
yeah.
But
it was like of a violent nature, or in a violent nature, or something like that. And that movie was fantastic.
I think it was on Shudder or something like that.
I really, really like that because you get to see, like, because this is like a Jason.
How he determines his victims and all that. Yeah.
So he's like awoken from the pile where his corpse is reanimated to get revenge on the people again.
And those people were a bit on the obnoxious side.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but they kind of deserved it.
Yeah. And I could see like the dog being that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. We'll give it a shot. But I really like that one.
Yeah, I was telling him, or was it you I was telling, or was I talking to my sister maybe? But anyway, I was saying that there's all these movies coming out, but there's like, I don't know, I think it was you, because you said, I think they're scared to put out a movie because a lot of the movies, I was going through, I've never heard of this movie. I'm looking at Marcus Theaters and going, I have never heard of this.
Yeah. Well, because I think there's so much pushback against any kind of movies, that have that. Like, they've been trying to release the Snow White for like 2 years now. And they've almost completely refilmed that movie. And it was supposed to premiere like this weekend in England, and they canceled the premiere again. So they can go back and reshoot more of it.
Oh, they're reshooting again. I thought they were just going to kind of let it release
No,
without any fanfare.
they had to change a bunch of scenes in it now. So they're going to redo even more of it.
Well, as a diehard, lifelong Disney fan, when you start messing with those originals and you're trying to throw in, and it's just...
It just blows my mind. Why? We say this all the time. Like, why do you have to take a fantastic old movie
the oldest
then remake
full-feature animation movie ever? I mean, that was the very first one.
And just add all of this junk into the movie, so then it just tanks and it's awful. And everybody just looks and they're like, all of humanity told you to stop. Yet here we are. Can't you hire a writer? Is it illegal to hire a writer that can make a new movie?
Well,
why do you have to take the old great movies and make them terrible?
Yeah, well, like Star Wars.
Why not take an old terrible
Indiana
movie
Jones.
and make it good?
Why does it? Why we got to do Ariel? Why are they even redoing these? Is there no new stories out there? Is that what we've gotten to? Is there's no new?
I think
nothing?
At this point, I just honestly believe that the executives at Disney just like to wag their middle finger in people's faces.
Well, they keep raising the prices.
They just love to waste money and piss off the entire world. I literally feel like that. Like they just.
Well, and he owns stock in Disney.
I used to.
Oh, you don't? You got rid of it all?
I dumped all of it. Like, I can't be a shareholder in that company anymore. Like, I just can't do it.
He used to listen to the shareholders meetings.
Yeah. It would be a bloodbath. They don't even do it anymore. That's how bad it is.
Okay, reel back.
Reel it back.
Reel it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything coming out in the next few weeks that
I haven't seen a trailer for anything that looked like it was exciting. I saw a teaser poster for a horror Popeye movie today that I thought was kind of comedic.
Oh, is Popeye out of royalties now, or copyright?
I don't know. Possibly.
Is he like a public commons or whatever they call it?
Yeah.
Because there's now. Well, someone asked me the other day. We were talking about Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
And now I guess someone goes, "Did you see that Winnie the Pooh horror movie?"
Right.
And I was like, "No."
I haven't seen it, but I know that it exists.
Because, a lot of Disney properties are now or whatever.
They're so old that they're starting
Steamboat Willie is now, and So slowly but surely, they're, a violent Winnie the Pooh movie.
I have seen a pitch trailer, like a kind of a pitch thing for a Donald Duck horror movie that I thought was pretty clever.
I'm surprised at this day and age that someone hasn't insisted that Donald Duck wear pants, because he runs around with just a top on. These are the kind of things that go through my mind.
Right.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Okay, a Hell's Bells to Sinister.
Yep.
And, I got nothing.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so we will see you next time on The Midnight Matinee.
The Midnight Matinee.
Midnight Matinee.
Here's Todd.
You've been watching The Midnight Matinee, brought to you by the Veritas Project. So when the clock strikes 12, grab your tickets for the next episode of The Midnight Matinee.